everybody, this is Maniasha from Dreamvisioncreations, and today we're going to be going over how to install a epoxy sculpt lip onto your resin blank. So it's basically the forming and shaping of the lip on the head itself. This has already been blocked out with some paint before, but this is first we're going to start out with going over which tools you need to start doing this process. And the first thing, very important, is to get the epoxy sculpt. You can usually buy this online from any kind of like Dick Blick's craft stores, taxidermy stores. I really haven't seen anywhere local you can buy it yet, but it's not too expensive. This is a really big container. They actually come in little tiny containers as well, little sample kits. This one here is black, so you don't have to worry about adding any paint to it, or it comes in a black color. So basically it's a two-part air drying epoxy dough, and it dries rock hard, so you don't have to worry about it breaking, chipping, or scraping in the future. I always have a cup of water with me. With this material you can actually smooth it out, and during the curing process you have about 45 minutes to an hour and 20 working time depending on how thick the clay is. The more clay you have, the faster it cures. So basically I just dip my fingers in the water and just smooth out the lip area. I'll also do this for my eyes whenever I add the epoxy sculpt to the eyes. I also use cling wrap. I actually put this over top of the clay once I have it formed on the base, and then I put my detail through the cling wrap, and it helps kind of disperse the detail so it's not as sharp an edge, not as harsh. It helps kind of dull it out, make it look more organic. I also have one of my little tiny wooden clay tools that sometimes I use for actually trying to smooth down the edge. I don't usually use them that much, but there's cases where my fingers are, too big in certain areas and I need something small. For my details, I use a toothpick, standard wooden toothpick, and also use a thicker grade, usually upholstery quality sewing pin for my detail. I also like to have a paper towel on hand in case I need to clean my fingers off, because this material is actually black dyed, so it will stain your fingers a little bit until you get a chance to wash them with soap. And last is I like to use a clamp, and I use this to actually keep the mouth pried open so I don't have to worry about any point during the process the mouth actually closing shut and then ruining my beautiful detail and all the work I just did. So, zoom in here and start get to work. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to pry the mouth open. So now it's secured, I don't have to worry about it closing shut on me. Next process is start mixing up the clay. This is a equal part mixing putty. I like to kind of estimate out how much I need. That'll be good. And you can see it's already starting to stain a little bit. gonna make 2 little balls, one part A, one part B, about equal in size. And the next step is to mix it together. And basically mixes to a point where you don't see any more streaks. Doing a lot of twisting and folding of the clay. And then smushing it back out again. So now it's all nice and mixed. So basically I turn it into a slug. Just kind of roll out the ends. I want it to taper. I want it to be thicker towards the front and taper down onto the sides. Basically, there's my lip slug. I always like to do a little bit of a test before I start smushing it down. So I'll begin. And you can see, slightly dirty fingers. So I was using a paper towel. Just kind of wipe away the grease. Okay, next I get to start smushing it down. And it'll be a little tough because this clay is going to want to stick to your fingers more so than the blank. So I'm just kind of using my pointer and my thumb to press it around the edge of the mask. Pulling down onto the mask itself. And kind of smushing it. It's going to look really chunky at first. You can start working with it more once it's actually on the mask. Remember I was saying before, there's some areas I just can't get my fingers, and I could really use that wooden tool right around the teeth here. It's a little difficult, so I'm going to use my tools to kind of press the clay down and around. I want it to blend into my black plastic. again, just smushing it down. And now you can't see a transition between the lip and the black, which is nice. And there's some areas where it starts getting a little cracky, and that's when, again, you want to start using the water. So I kind of dip my tool in the water, and I just smooth it out, bring a moisture back into the clay. Now you do have a choice. You could just keep it smooth like this if you want, or you could texture it, and I'm going to show you the texture process. If you want to smooth it out, you'll just essentially just keep taking water and just brushing it with your thumb and fingers, making it nice and smooth. So the next step, I'll make sure this is all nice and pressed down on the mask itself. Again, if you see any kind of cracking, see some cracking right here, I'm going to add water. If you have brand new epoxy sculpt, you don't get this problem as much, but if you've had it sitting a while like mine has, you'll start getting that little crackling, which is annoying. But again, you just use some water and wet it. Smooth it all out. There we go. Okay. Now that my little black slug's on there, I'm going to take my cling wrap. I'm going to put it right over top of the lip and kind of push it around. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I start with my toothpick first. And let's kind of just gently push into the epoxy sculpt. Oh, sorry. And it doesn't have to be straight up and down. It's supposed to be natural kind of creases, so kind of start going a little sporadic with it. Some of them are deeper, some of them are lighter creases. You can go inside the mouth too. Maybe it's easier, I'm just going to flip the head open. How's that? I want the lips to go down. Sorry, I'm trying to video this as best as I can, but it's a little difficult while I'm trying to look through a screen and do this work. So I like to look at it every once in a while so you can just remove it and start to see your work. And you can move around the cling wrap, it doesn't have to stay in the same spot. So I'm going to go to a new spot, start working around the edge here. A couple areas I accidentally poked here, so I'm going to go back over those spots. One big thing is you don't want the plastic to be too tight, because then otherwise it'll actually not capture your detail. I'll just kind of pull it back out. See, there's not very much detail right here because it was too tight. See, when you go a little bit more sporadic with the detail, it looks even more better. So essentially, just play with it a bit. You don't have to be perfect the first time you do this kind of stuff. You can also look at references for animals online for the way the lip texture looks, because with like large cats, they tend to have little like hanging jowl lips right here on the side, especially like big tooth cats. Also dogs with saggy lips tend to have a little bit more lip showing on the sides. There we go. Pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to take some water. And just smooth it a little bit. Like, I'm not really putting too much pressure on it. Just enough to get the very surface of it. Just want to put a tad bit more detail right there. And if you're concerned that it fits properly, you can go back and kind of remove this very gently. Make sure you hold on to your nose or your mask. Make sure nothing's hitting. And what I like to do is kind of shift the head back and forth like this. Make sure that the fangs don't hit any of the clay I added. I'm very gently letting it sit on there so I can see how it lines up. And usually if you follow the lip lines of the actual mask itself, it fits pretty well. As you can see right here, I have a little bit higher on this side than I do on this side. So I'm just going to very carefully, from the bottom, just kind of push up on the clay here. And now it fits better. And do the exact opposite of this one. Just going to very gently push down. This also means I need to go back and fix that detail. There we go. So I can go back over that one side, and since I added water to it, it helped moisten up the clay a bit. So it makes it a lot easier for me to add the teeth tail back in there again. And this is all part of the process. You gotta constantly tweak. Even if you try like measuring that out and sizing it before you start adding the detail, just by like putting pressure on this clay, you're going to move it around. So there's a chance this is going to move, even if you try to get set correctly from the beginning. But it doesn't take very long to go back and fix it, especially if you know where you gotta make some new little marks. There we go. That side's fixed. And again, pat it with some water. And then you're done. So to make sure that it cures properly, I'm actually going to set it so the mouth is completely open. Springs are not attached. And just set it down. To cure overnight.